Hi everyone, how are you all doing? Boop, I got booped. How dare you? Hmm. Hi Ryan. Hi Devil. Hi Wind. Hmm. Hi Light. Hi DFG. Hi Tori. Wow. Thank you, Wind, for the 105 streak. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Monday? Music and loud compared to mic? Oh yeah, probably still is. Let me fix that. There we go. Now it's way lower than me. Was high because it was the starting screen. Well, as loud as me, probably. Relatively, kind of, maybe. Not sure. So we have a Nigel in this world, but they're hiding like a cute bean that they are. I'm sure I could go look for them, but I'm not gonna be doing that. They haven't joined the thingy yet, so maybe they're still starting the stream. You know, they need to do the things, and so they are going to join us in a small bit. Probably, maybe not. What can I say? I just got out of bed. I feel like tiredly poop. God damn it. Something. So yes, the plan for today is obviously squaring the same number as usual, and then fishing the same number as usual. But yeah, no, we're probably gonna go fishing afterward. I hope VRC is heard though, because I did not check that. We are gonna do a quick check. Uh, yeah, yeah, VRC works. Now, when Nigel comes to me, if they're heard twice, do tell me if that's the case. I'll have to remake the thing again. Neutral gear. Just take your time to wake up. Grab a coffee or something. I'm doing the good. I managed to catch a few friends during this weekend. Was nice. Managed to fish with a good friend that I rarely manage to catch usually, and me. Was a very good weekend. I think. Managed to spend time with Sylvie and watching a movie in Vlavs and Stones too, like Vlavs movies. Was a fun time. We rewatched, well, for us was a rewatch of Princess Mononoke. Thank you for the follow, Ali. Very much. Thank you. Words are hard in the morning on Monday. It's not morning, I know, but yeah, morning from 6 a.m. to approximately like 5 in the afternoon. Yeah, that's the morning. Definitely. Yeah, ID, just we do the squat, we go fish. Rest of the week, mostly as usual. Tomorrow we will be doing Roadcraft. There might be a special, like it might be a special in quotation stream because we might be using the airdrops to get the new DLC, which we will probably be like have to play for the airdrop. And on Wednesday we will be starting Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon, since we finished Uncharted. I needed a more regular playthrough to have. That's something. Was supposed to be Crimson Desert, but as I explained multiple times, Crimson Desert decided to not disclaim the AI use on their game. And so, yeah.
Chucky's food.
And on Thursday, we will be doing the usual Planet Crafter, where we will be doing Pitch Day on Thursday. And on Friday, obviously, we go back to Helldiver for a bit. I haven't finished unlocking everything in the Warbound, and you know, that heavy flamer is good. Hi, Nigel, and hi, Dante. I wanted to finish that before starting to discuss of other things. Hi, how you doing, Nigel?
Melting. It's too hot today.
Maybe don't do squats then. How's the very formal attire Dante doing?
The very formal oppa.
Doing
Very
good?
formal
Hey.
oppa.
Very adorable. You should go follow them and give them all your worldly possession.
If you can't give any worldly possessions, just give the rainbow carrots to Dante so Dante can do more pulls in Uma Musume.
Hi, Nigel and Dante's chat. Hope you're all
Morgana.
both doing good in there.
That's it.
Can't believe they numbed my chat now. It's war. Guys, fight them. I'm kidding. Just sending out chat against each other. But yeah. For now, the plan is just squats and then fish. Where the event is still going, by the way, if people haven't finished doing that. I don't know how long exactly it's gonna last. But normally it was like, they were saying 10 days plus. It should be 10 days tomorrow. Meaning there's a chance for maybe Wednesday. Maybe they'll end just a week.
Fishing.
I don't know. But yeah, for people who wants to grind levels,
Dante I've seen outside of Bikini,
and it's fully closed.
It's still closed, but normally I see Dante having like long sleeves on.
Yeah, true.
It's like those Enfield mods where they took off the jackets of the operators.
I've had last week several people. Damn it. Hope you had fun, Italy. That's one way to make friends, I guess. How's the Sylvan?
Kitty Sylvan. Kitty.
Hi, Gilgamesh. Thank you for the 3 streak. But yeah.
Oh no. Oh no, they're streaking in Shaki's chat.
My bins are always streaking. Can't believe. Siri, how dare you? Thank you so much. I guess that's 5 more squats. Oh. Thank you for the 19-month bean. Adorable Siwi.
Sound to Shaki more.
Bah. Not careful, I might fall in love if it's not too late. If you fall in love with the friends you made, I hope you have a good time with them, and I hope it works out, at least. Bite you, Siri. Out there. But you know, like, some people have some very I wouldn't say weird. Well, it's kind of weird compared to a real to the real world, but weird ways to make friends on Vrchat. It's like it's fine, but there's just some people just come trying to seduce someone directly instead of just trying to be friend. Just be friend, guys. There's so many games you can just enjoy with
This is why you
friends.
friend-zoned everyone. I mean, what?
Yeah,
What?
friends with everyone.
Yeah, friend-zone.
You're such a good friend.
Yes.
But yeah, no,
But in
like,
actuality, I may have done that accidentally a few times, unintentionally.
oh, God.
Otherwise,
I mean, can happen. It's
it is
better.
what it is.
You see the other way. Yes, they will feel hurt because they hoped there was more, but at least they'll have their answer, so they can move on.
Yeah. At least they have the answer instead of
Yeah,
left hanging.
yeah. And yes, he's such a cute gremlin. Mm-hmm.
Jeez, food.
Yeah, that's how you make friends. No, I'm kidding.
That's how you make
No,
friends.
that's
You
not how
pet
you
them.
make friends. Don't do that
No, I thought
to
that's how
random
you make
people.
friends. You just walk up to them and go,
No, that's how you eat food. It's not the same thing. Who taught
oh,
Nigel how
I
to
see.
make friends?
How?
I'm not food. He
I'm
is not
hungry.
there either.
But you are floof.
I'm floof, not food. It's not the same thing. Don't eat your floof, because
Mm,
otherwise you'd be running after your tail.
I mean, on the technicality, I'm an untrained dog, so there might be some habit that'll be chasing me tail.
God damn it.
I mean, if you think about it, wolves,
Ah,
you know,
well, they're hunters, and they're not. Uh, how to say? Animals just
ow.
made by humans to be in quotation exactly what they want, but in the end it's just a mix of different breeds, which makes some very stupid dogs at some point, depending on what you look at. Like there's some amazing dogs, very lovely and like very friendly and all, and then you get those dogs that are
Mm-hmm.
the size of a shoe
Teacup. Mm.
and scream loudly at everything that comes up to them, even though it's 5 times their size. And if they try to attack it, they would just get squished. Um, and that's without even talking about the fact that some of those species of dog, I'm not even thinking about the Chihuahua, I'm thinking about another one that I heard about a friend of my mother was
Gecko.
having health issues walking. That's not an animal. That's a mistake. I'm sorry. If the animal is fucking dying by just living, and I know technically we all die from living, yeah, sure. But no, dying from just walking around, there's an issue.
Squish.
This thing shouldn't exist. I know the sunfish exist, but
I was told to
ano-
squish the
that's
roof.
no other topic. Fluffy cotton candy. When has been cotton candy this color? What kind of cotton candy do you eat?
It's what's this? Charcoal activated
Yeah.
cotton candy.
Sure, sure. I accept it. Probably not doesn't have much taste, but yeah. It's good for your health, apparently. Licorice.
Black
Oh,
licorice.
yeah. Technically, you could. I don't know if it would taste good though. The mix, because cotton candy is super sugary and licorice is not that sugary. I don't know if it would mix well.
Might balance it out.
Maybe,
Might balance
yeah,
it out
maybe.
if you can reach it correctly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to grab water here.
I might have to go downstairs at some point because my bottle of water is almost empty. I have a bit of tea still from earlier, so I can still drink that and the rest of the bottle of water. But maybe I will have to go downstairs, grab a water bottle, and come back up. Okay. Nigel's cute, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What?
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Princess?
Okay, I'm leaving. You know what? I'm ending the stream early. I'm just gonna rage shock you right now.
Was too easy. It was too easy.
Raid.
No.
Shock.
Goop. 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 Goop.
Ratings. Not shock. Rail.
Black licorice. Oh, Vin doesn't like black licorice. Oh. But black licorice is so good. No, I'm kidding. It's not my favorite type of sweets. It's just I can eat it. I do enjoy eating it, but it's
good
just
in its own right, but it's not something that you would look for.
yeah, like exactly. If someone gives me some, yeah, I'm gonna eat it, but I'm not gonna be going to go buy some whenever. I'm just gonna be like, yeah, no. Even if I see it in the shop that I pass by, I'm not gonna grab it. I'm just gonna continue. It's kind of for me. It's kind of the same for every types of sweets. Like outside of uh patisseries, but that's beside like something else, you know. Patisseries are amazing and very good. In some cases, hard to make friends due to time constraint or reason. 2 weeks ago, I met this French person I wanted to become friends with. So depressed and tired the day that I was barely functioning, I was considering sending a friend request. If they suddenly leave, they sent me a friend request instead, despite my state. Oh, that made me a bit. I can get to know them proper avatar time instead. Eee, that's a nice story. I do hope you manage to spend more time with them. Wow. I should probably start doing my squats.
I'm not wrong. Ichiko is a chunker cat. Well, at least the base. I know you're a bunny right now. But in terms of the avatar base, chunker.
They're not a bunny, apparently.
I can't.
But you know.
Brain is smooth.
What was my favorite sweet in the past?
Oh. What the dog doing? But there, in terms of like the avatar basis from, it's a chunker cat.
I don't remember what we eating chocolate. No, not chocolate. I was talking about like more sweets like black licorice or Tagada strawberries. I don't know if you know that, but I'm trying to think about what was my favorite sweet in the past, and I'm kind of blanking out on this because I don't think I don't think there was one specifically. There's some that I do enjoy seeing sometimes again very much. Like, you know, the Coca-Cola taste sweet. I don't remember if it has a name, honestly. But you know, it's a bottle shaped sweet, uh, with the taste of Coca-Cola in it. Mm. Annie. Ah,
Is it Ichigo? Yeah, Ichigo.
ah. Yeah, Ichigo is it's the base I'm still not very much enjoying at all. Mm.
It's cute though.
The face is cute,
It's cute in
yes.
its own right.
I will give it that.
It's
The
extra
face
cute
is
because it's
cute.
little Sheena right here. Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I'll see cola gummy. The cola
Harry.
gummies. I'm not sure if there was one that I
Harry.
actually
Thank you for the
enjoyed very
gratitude.
much to the point where I
Wait,
would have
Drain's
bought it
streaking in my
again.
chat. What the heck?
Halsey, you're such a good girl. Um, outside of that, outside of the cola gummies, the Tagada strawberry gummies were relatively
Lucky.
good.
Oh.
Uh,
I'll hydrate. Give me a second.
but yeah, no, like now that I think about it, there wasn't any of the sweets that actually just was like you know when you went as a kid into one of those store and you just saw all of the sweets. There wasn't one where I would just be like, oh, I need that one absolutely. If I buy anything, it's gonna be that one, nothing else. It's like no, there wasn't any like that for me. Hi, Avava.
But there is one thing that you can that you're absolutely like that.
Hmm?
Coffee?
Yeah, coffee, but it's not a
Coffee?
sweet. It's far from being
Coffee,
sweet
coffee,
since
coffee.
90% of the time it's black coffee for me. I would prefer to have like better coffee, like cappuccino, macchiato, or something like that. But it's just I do enjoy my black coffee.
I'm just
Cocoa
gonna
filled
do half.
croissant. Yeah, I would put
So
cocoa filled croissant within the patisserie category more than sweets. Like yes, it's sweet, but it's not what I was talking about. It was more about gummies and stuff like that. But yes, and there, well, since I live close to France, we do have probably well the best choice in type of like in term of patisserie. I think. I think it's my opinion. Sue me. But yeah, no, we do have some amazing choice of patisserie and bread since I live close to France. Like Europe in general has an amazing like amount of recipes of breads and stuff like that. Don't overdo it. You go.
when your legs don't work like they used to before.
One of my favorites patisserie that I would use, like I would eat often. Well, the reason why I was eating it often was because it was at the gymnasium I went to. The cafeteria in there had every break. Well, the funny French pain au chocolat, which is the chocolate bread, like, but was a buttery version of the bread. And when it just came out of the oven, it was freaking delicious and just ah
Chocolate is oozing as you bite into it.
yeah, not oozing too much, but
Ah,
still like you could feel
it's oozing just the
the
right amount.
butter, just the melted butter in the bread on top of everything, and it was just amazingly delicious. Thank you for the hydrate, Tabadias. Small mylar wrapped cocoa croissant where I live. So they can be storage in room temperature for weeks and eaten as if it's like. Oh. Hmm. Well, personally, I would prefer just cooked croissant because you can have buttered croissant too, and those are also just delicious. Just cooked bread. It's so good.
Oh,
Mm.
we're footballing Siri right now.
That I'm pretty
We're
sure
footballing the snack.
I probably at least 10 or 20 times during my younger years when I was helping my parents do the groceries, we'd come back with a baguette, and the shop where we bought the bread was like usually the
You mean
baguette was
bucket?
still.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, yes, it was a French baguette technically, but it was just out of
I'm
the
not a cat.
oven, and so when you're in the car with just hot bread in your hand and it smells so fucking good. You just end up grabbing
And then when you
a bit
actually
and you just
crush
eat
it a
it.
little bit, you just hear the
Ah,
cracking a little bit.
that's so good. So. Mm. Mm.
I miss making bread,
I mean,
but it's so
Italy,
annoying.
it might not be a luxury to have, but there is plenty of recipes online where you could technically try to make your own. Like I'm pretty sure you could even have recipes for the dough for it. Now, if you have everything needed there, and also from what I know, making bread is not the easiest thing, depending what you're using, because it requires very specific like temperatures, humidity, and stuff like that. Otherwise, it's not gonna do what it's supposed to do. But yeah,
Yeah.
there might be ways for you to make actual croissant anywhere in the world. It's just you need the basic stuff for it, which is might be harder to get, and also you need to work way longer to actually get your croissant then, because you will need to actually just make the dough, then
The layering.
wait, then make the shape, then make the croissant and cook it, and then finally being able to eat it. Well, it's going to take like 1/10 of the time that you took to make them, uh, just to eat them.
Mm-hmm.
Croissant. Will you be finishing that? Croissant. Croissant. Yes, shout out the scene. Hi, scene.
I see.
How do you feel about jelly beans? Uh, they were okay in my country at least, but not the
Pass.
best,
That's a
honestly.
pass for me.
Like they were fine. It's just
Is it?
eh.
Unless it's the food challenge with friends. The bean boozled
Those
ones.
those Monboozle beans, yeah, well, but that's different than the jelly beans. Jelly beans were just the basic one with the basic tastes, and they weren't that great, honestly. Like, I never really enjoyed them. Like same as licorice, kind of, though a bit worse. Meaning, if you gave me the choice between two things, I would have grabbed anything else. But if I had some, I might have eaten them at some point. Then don't overdo it, you goob. Hey, what were thing before I got heated to at prison? We were talking about croissant, um, and food in general. Like at first, I was talking about one kind of sweets, like gummy bears and stuff like that. I would have actually enjoyed the most, but I didn't find any because I don't know. I don't know if any of you have one that actually just you would go to automatically or not. Hmm. Same for Nigel and Dante. I don't know if they do. Hmm.
Which one?
For the sweets in the style of jelly beans or whatever. If you had one that you preferred.
There are places that sells the jelly beans, but in most cases it's just the
Well,
bean boozled
I
ones.
wasn't talking about the jelly beans, just the jelly beans. I was talking about sweets in general, but meaning in that category of sweets. Grape flavor.
If it's like sweet, like
Yeah.
bread based, we have
No, not bread based.
uh,
How the fuck do I call them?
I mean,
It's just the jelly stuff.
if it's oh,
like
wait, in the sense of a jelly bean, or
in the same style as
jelly
jelly
spread?
bean, but it can be whatever the fuck you want. It could be the Coca-Cola gummies,
No,
the stuff like that, and the
No.
licorice even.
we don't. For us, it's hard candy.
Candies, there you go. That's the word that was escaping me for the past year. Because I don't eat candies most of the time anymore. Obviously, I would have remembered if it was something I ate relatively often. Hmm. Ah. But you know, sweet candies I don't have. Hmm. Ah. I don't have any that I prefer. I love sweets. Hmm. Sweets are good in general, but yeah, just
This is why Tati is a sweet bean.
mm, as for patisserie, well, issue is patisserie is more generic because you have salty patisserie and you got sugary ones, so kind of a bit wider. I love ice cream more. Oh, ice cream is thousand
Really
times
don't
better
love ice
than
cream.
candies. Mm. Ah.
Ayaki.
Really?
Oh.
Oh, Kaniko. Oh, it's perfect. Wait. I'm gonna do your redeem in a second. See, give me a few seconds. Mm. Mm. Yeah, I won't. Don't worry. Mm. Ah, he's joining. That's why I'm saying wait a few seconds.
What are we doing now?
Mm. But yes, he's such a good girl.
Maybe.
Mm. Damn it, but yes. Wow. I didn't realize that some candies will actually burn like wood if you light it. I mean, it's sugar. It's just. It's. Yeah.
You're playing ZZZ right now. Hope it's doing well.
Thank you for the raid.
My
I
legs are burning. I think I'm gonna reach 100.
I will in a
Gonna
small
push it.
bit. Let me get to 100 squats quickly. There you go. Mm-hmm. Maybe. Very,
It's the famous B,
very famous. Indeed.
who is currently showing off a new outfit.
A very lovely outfit. I was almost tempted. Well, I don't think it's out yet, but I'm tempted to put it on my
It's not
avatar
yet, if I remember
for
correctly, it's not
the
yet out.
for the fitness outfit. That would work out probably well. Don't you think? Oh, once ago. Happy birthday, you good girl. There you go. Now they're dead. Ah, I just did what someone asked me in chat. I don't see the problem.
You know you have the right to say no. I
But
know you
it's
got
more
paid, but you can just say no.
funny.
You're an asshole.
Ah,
I mean, that is a pretty good birthday welcome, but
also, I forgot. Sin. Such a good girl. Hi. How's your
it's just
birthday
not.
going?
Hi. It's good. Well, my net is slow, so I can't see you yet at the moment, but it's good. I got some Biscoff cheesecake as a dessert. I had some pork belly for dinner. What are you doing to me?
I don't know.
I can't tell what you're doing to me because you're just a diamond
I don't know either.
and your stream won't load. Oh, you're booping me. Hi. Sneezed on Goober.
Stamp, stamp, stamp. Well, Sinead is learning from Cormier. He's trying to stab people. I can't believe.
But yeah, no, I've been doing good.
Oh,
I've got
500 squat today? I'm joking.
Fuck it, I'll do it.
No, don't. It was a joke.
I can do 100.
It's your birthday. Don't break your leg on your birthday, you absolute goof. You can do 100. If you can do 100 and you feel like you can,
I hate
you
the
can.
fact that.
But don't do 500 just because I tell you.
Also, the fact that I missed out on saying something so fucking good in response to that because you're streaming, it's tragic. But at least I behave, unlike some people on your stream. I behave unlike you yourself on your stream sometimes, actually.
I mean, I need to be quoted out of the context, right?
Yeah, you know what? Never mind. You're right. You need to get that engagement. You need to get that engagement bait. My apologies.
It never works for me, but I'm trying, guys. I'm trying.
It's fine. That's why you have me and Blue who get created instead.
Exactly. It's
real
this
estate.
Goob birthday, which is Koneko in chat.
Hi. Yes, I am Konako, Australian. 'Tis my birthday. I'm becoming old, and I hate it.
They were always old.
The fuck do you mean? I'm turning 20 today. Well, I am 20.
You're vintage.
You're like a sensi. Bitch, you're vintage. You're like a bloody VHS tape.
I'm doing 100 squats every day.
I gotta wind your ass back up because of how old you are. God damn.
Well, it's morning for you.
Morning.
Nico.
Con. Oh, wait, not this.
I might. I'll send it to Saki in DMs. Actually, I do have a birthday celebration planned, and I know you
Like he was
definitely
saying,
won't be able to catch it early, but if you can stop by, that would
Advance happy birthday.
be appreciated.
Nah.
And if my internet would stop dying.
The engagement bait on Jaku's stream yesterday was
Thank you.
free and Jaku.
Once.
I was just
thank
being there.
you. Yeah. See, Saki is the best bait whenever they're on someone else's stream.
Even though I was just being comfy. Wait, no, wait, it's not Jakuba only?
you're
Was it
so
Jakuba
beautiful,
VR?
you're just-
I don't remember their Twitch.
I don't remember also.
It's not Jakuba VR. What is that? Goob.
Okay, you know, I'm gonna.
Mm,
I'll be right
Let me
back. I
bite
need to
them.
try changing my internet.
Answer.
can I be
There you
put
go.
in as well?
Underscore VR.
Okay,
Thank you,
BRB.
B.
Twitch.
Hmm.
It's underscore VR, yeah. I'm gonna bite this bin for having the goal of using the underscore VR. I'm joking. There you go. That's the pin. I always have issues with that type of thing. Like when I know someone for a long bit and I always call them the same way,
Whose legs are not working at the moment.
I'm not gonna be remembering their actual Twitch like nickname if it's not the same as their nickname. That's just the amazing sheep.
Yo.
Never gonna need to change my emote prefix. Things.
Oh, I remember what I was
Window.
gonna do.
Then it,
Guys,
no.
I don't know. You're pretty dirty.
Because the number. Oh, you already have a
That's
number
right.
at the start of your
Okay.
name. I could do that. I could be SH0CKI. CKY.
It combines all our numbers.
I see what. Yeah.
It combines
Does
all
make
our numbers
sense,
and
yeah.
our squats. And then if you choose a new squatting spot, it will transfer the number.
And C is cute.
Okay. Okay. I'm sending you a date. And time doesn't really matter because you'll be asleep. But if you're able to pop by
For
before
birthday,
stream, would be appreciated.
I'll try to pass by. I'll try. I already didn't manage to catch
I'll
the
be up
monkey
pretty late.
yesterday. I was sad.
Wake up. Wake up.
I mean,
Jose.
it'll be fine. I'll be
We
up
gotta
for a
sleep
while.
together.
If you can't make it, then I appreciate the happy birthday from the day. You guys are wonderful.
Yeah, do
Even
drop
if
the
you-
DM. And I'll try.
Yeah, I sent you the DM.
When is it? It's 6 in the morning. Perfect. It is 6 in the morning. God damn it. I was joking. I hadn't opened the DM. I was like, it's 6 in the morning. It's perfect. No, it's not perfect. It's gonna be hard for me to manage, but I'm gonna try when I wake up to see if you're still online and probably check.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll realistically, I'll probably be up by the time you stop. Like until you start stream. So if you.
Oh yeah,
hop
I should
on
have time in the morning. Yeah,
before-
probably.
Squish,
Yeah,
squish,
I'll do
squish,
that then.
squish, squish.
Because yeah, I'm not gonna
I'll
catch you at
appreciate that
6 in my morning.
I know. Okay, that's just the time when I'm starting it for the Americans and
Yeah.
us and myself.
Like, yeah, sure.
I know. This
I
group
totally
needs her
didn't go
precious
to
beauty
sleep. I totally didn't go to sleep at around 5 a.m. this morning because of a certain sheep. They dragged me into the fishing hole. I couldn't stop
Why is
myself.
Dante? Dante's a robot for me for some reason. Why?
They might have
Why?
bugged out on your end. For me, they're fine.
This is fucking tragic. I can't see the cute Dante.
Hide and reshow their
I'm gonna
avatar.
cry.
Or maybe Dante need to
I've-
switch avatar at least twice.
I see small Dante.
Yeah, there you go.
Enjoy.
Bortono.
So to be fair, you
Squish the
showing
Uma.
up later might be better anyways because I've got no clue what chaos is gonna happen with intersecting
Oh,
friend
the
groups.
chaos. Yeah, no, when there's too many people, it's sometimes hard. Like I joined on Tail
All the chaos.
because it was Tail's birthday yesterday, and I joined on them during the stream. It was way too chaotic. I just passed by, I said happy birthday, and I left. Oh, way too many people
I mean, If
already.
you have to do that for me, then I'll be happy with that. I enjoy you stopping by. I've got a friend that also is probably gonna like show up on desktop and then disappear. He's just like,
Sheen is dead.
I can't believe.
They push
Look at this
themselves
sports creature.
when they shouldn't have.
Kaiju, you stinky.
Okay.
Hi, Kaiju.
Hi,
How you
Kaiju.
doing?
Did someone already add more squats? How many fucking squats? Doing? Holy shit. There's 805 group reps. I assume that isn't accounting for me. This is fine.
What? Yeah, it's their birthday.
Hey, Kaiju. Hope you guys had fun
I
over
thank
at
you.
event at over at Zion.
Is that's a
Couldn't
knife
stay
as
too
well.
long because of stick drift.
Is this gonna kill me?
Knife Kaiju.
Oh, it's actual chocolate. Oh,
Can't
great.
believe Kaiju wasn't in a maid outfit
Adorable.
yesterday.
Very foof. Hey, what?
It's so weird that I recognize most of these chocolates actually. It's like the little ones are the
I
ones
was
that
just
have
floofing the
cream and
floof.
stuff inside them.
Yeah.
That's a
Floof, floof.
wafer. I've got no clue what the fuck's in the middle. That's an unknown to me. It looks like a rock
Floof, floof, floof.
candy.
Wow.
Thank
Wow.
If I cut the tail off, can it be turned into a blanket?
See,
Would that
Not
be
the
my
tail.
birthday present?
I'ma
Second?
bite you. Thank you very much. Hey. 25 more squats. Mm. Ah. Oh, you got a few beans from chat. Nice. But yes, do remember that we are not in a bikini world.
Hi, Yowie. Hi, Yowie. How are you? Good morning.
We're not in a beach world. I don't want to get bonked because someone else decided to put a bikini in a non-beach world. Thank you in advance. Such a good girl.
Yes, but with
Yeah,
there's 3 of us.
not
who are
in this world.
Fishing?
Not in the
Not in this world.
If we go to the fishing world, go ahead.
Yeah, if we're on the fishing world with
If we
water
go to
next to
fishing
it,
world, we
yes,
can go.
not here. Otherwise, I'll have to hide your avatar. That's all. That's.
What the heck?
Thank you.
You have such a punchable face.
Happy birthday.
I thank you.
It was just a bikini, but it's just. I don't want to get bonk.
You better believe it. I'm sorry. I'm kind of mean like that.
You have more
Sorry,
outfit
show
on.
my affection, though.
It doesn't look like just a bikini.
You're more clothed. You're more
Yeah.
covered.
People get bonked for just
Sounds
wearing
fishy.
bikinis
Yeah,
in.
very fishy.
Like, I know someone that recently got their YouTube video bonked because they were in a bikini outfit in a non-water world. So yeah, I don't want that to happen to my YouTube account. Thank you. Like this is fine normally, but the bikini only is kind of too much. Yes, exactly, Sinoid. Mm.
Oh, also, I saw you mention Crimson Desert, and besides the whole AI thing, the game looks so fucking cool. I saw so many tweets
But
of
AI
people
thing.
just like,
And de novo,
well, yeah.
DRMs.
Oh,
I'm still going to
I
put
don't
a
know
bad
anything
review
about
on
that
it,
one.
but
You're
literally
sick
gonna
because he just
start
wanna
by
dance.
before starting my review. It has de novo, and it had
Ariel Persona,
non-disclaimed
hello,
AI
hello,
stuff in
can I
it
hear you say?
that hasn't been
Thank you.
removed yet.
That,
And it will be a
fair.
bad review, even if I'm saying that the gameplay is amazing. It's still gonna stay a bad review until it's changed. De novo has usually not helped with performance for games.
Who could that be?
Yeah, who could that be?
fair. I
Yeah,
mean, people
right,
have been
Vin.
saying that
Yes,
the
Kaito,
optimization
cake.
is usually okay.
Now I want chocolate cake.
Once click
I
from a
kinda
Sega
get
to
it
Arc.
eventually. I've been seeing a bunch of like wrestling clips of them like using wrestling moves to
Sin.
fight, and it looks really intriguing.
Yeah.
But
Ah.
I've got Tainted Grail to try seeing now, which I've been enjoying a lot.
Siri.
Yeah, okay, let me. What? Okay, 930 is what I'll set it to, and then I will. Yeah.
Is
And
Vin
then
talking
I
about
sub you some
Crimson Desert?
Scotties.
If
So
it is, yeah.
it's not only that.
It's a good game so far.
There was also apparently painting that were still having AI stuff on them, even though there wasn't just dev stuff. Like wasn't in the game. Like there's a reason why they needed to put the announcement about the AI stuff on Steam is because there is AI stuff in the game. Otherwise, they wouldn't have needed to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess for me personally, I don't find it.
At least I think it was that.
Disclosing it is the issue. Yeah,
Feeling
it was
Sheena being
AI.
comfy right now
AI
makes me want to cuddle Sheena right now and sleep.
which they didn't disclose, which is an issue. Not disclosing it is an issue for me.
Sheena, stop being
Paintings
comfy.
themselves,
Like, yeah, sure.
feel like is too.
I will say one thing about AI.
It is your natural
You can
state.
technically use AI if you want to give yourself ideas of what you want things to look like, and then give it to an artist for the artist to remake the thing. Sure, but don't use the AI stuff in the game at all. Like, you don't even use it as placeholder. You just say placeholder number X, and you tell the artist, well, you're doing X art, and the artist note, oh, art X. And then you grab that art and you put it on the placeholder, the white placeholder number X, and blam. And you didn't use the AI art in game. Fixed.
I think my personal opinion there is a bit changed in the sense of so obviously people say that like it's bad because the concept artists and such don't get paid for it, right? But they're still getting paid for all of the
Technically, they're
other
paid.
concept
Yeah.
art they are making.
Yeah, but it's
because
just
they're getting paid for the concept art of the models, of the
Yeah.
landscapes, of
They're getting
everything
paid,
else that
but-
isn't AI. They're still getting paid.
yeah,
And
but they're
so
not
it
getting
saves them
paid
from
on that
having to
part
spend.
when it's
Yeah,
just
but it
replaced
also
by
means
AI.
they don't have to work on that part.
You can.
Yeah, but then it
Yeah.
also means they don't have to spend like 100+
Yeah,
hours making a bunch of different paintings.
100 hours of
The
paid
button
work.
again.
Yeah, they don't want that. They don't want to be paid more.
I mean, I understand that. Yeah, it's just.
That part is no. Like, replacing 100 hours of work from an artist by 5 minutes of I typed on the fucking keyboard to say what I want, and it came out trash, and I still put it in the game, is a stupid excuse in my opinion. Forgetting that you put it in the game and that you haven't replaced it yet, sure, that can happen. But it's always better to say
Fire.
we did it right from the start. We used an AI to like do
Yeah, them not
placeholders.
disclosing it is
If
an
you
issue
find
that I
one,
agree with.
do tell us because we're supposed to have replaced them. Endpoint. Then you admit right
Mm.
away that you've used AI. You've admitted that you tried to replace all of them. That maybe there was a mistake on one of the thing because there was lots of art, for example. The case of Crimson Desert, there's probably a lot of paintings that they had. So yes, maybe they might have missed it, but still, they should have started right away by disclaiming it. Yes, they would have had a small backlash of, oh my god, they're using AI. But my biggest issue with using AI is when you don't actually use artists at all. And you just throw everything in the game and it's just AI, nothing else.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I agree with you. It's just personally I guess at least sorry, Brent. I agree with you that it is bad and it would be better for them to get paid. However, I don't think it would be something severe enough that makes me stop me from buying a game. If the game itself is very good, then I'll probably buy it regardless
Yeah.
of that because in my eyes, the paintings are a very minor thing.
Oh, you know,
If
it
you
is.
look by them.
It's a minor issue.
yeah,
I probably
because-
wouldn't have noticed it, honestly. Like, outside of if I decided to look at a painting, I probably wouldn't have noticed it. That wasn't my issue. My issue is that they
90% of players
didn't
don't look at paintings.
Yeah,
and
but my issue is
that's
that they
why I
didn't
don't.
disclaim it right away.
Yeah,
It's a
and I
simple
agree with
thing.
That's
You
a
just
bad thing.
admit that you done it. And that's all. Yes, people
Yeah.
are going to be put off by it, but it's better than not saying it and then afterward people see it and you're forced to add it on Steam and people are like, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I completely agree with you there. Then, yeah,
It's
like that's
like-
very bad, not being transparent and disclosing it.
I do understand and I do like it's their choice to use AI to gain time on getting ideas. It's just another to disclaim that you're using it and not try to hide it because you know that it's gonna get a backlash. Like, just own up to the fact that you used
I
AI.
agree with you on that part. Then, yeah.
Because the biggest issue we have is people that don't say when they're using AI and just posting stuff randomly. And then you come across things that are obviously AI, but the devs are like, no, we totally paid an artist. Why the fuck does it look like the 50 other AI games next to it? But yeah.
I'm gonna go break my
Maybe,
knee now.
maybe after I finish Fall of Avalon, Tainted Grail, maybe I'll take a look at Crimson Desert on stream. Maybe. But for now, I just didn't want with that because, yeah.
That's fair.
Well, in that
I
case,
hope you enjoy Tainted Grail. I've been loving it so far.
in that case, Vin, it's more specific because it's AI, Gen AI for pictures, which is better if you mention that it is, even though it's very obvious apparently from what people are saying. But yeah, we're just going to get to a point that if we don't complain about AI stuff, big corpos are just going to put out stuff where they don't need developers and they just tell an AI to do the entire game and the entire art part of the game is just gonna be gone. And you're just gonna be talking to your AI companion to play a game that is just gonna appear in front of you, which some people might want, but yeah, no, thanks. To me, that doesn't sound interesting. Because we've seen how it is for games that are, produced with generative seeds stuff, aka Starfield. It feels fucking empty 90% of the time. It wasn't made by AI, it was just made by a small algorithm that would generate automatically areas with POIs and stuff. It just feels empty if it's done badly. And I'm pretty sure the AI is not gonna do
Enough.
as much a good job as
Please,
a bunch of devs would.
please tell me there's no gimmicks.
Mhm.
There's no gimmicks. Okay.
Starfield tried to be a game. They aren't. Crimson Desert 2 tried to be a game.
On over there.
I do think Crimson Desert is trying to be a game, even a good game. It's just that they started very badly because they chose to start with wanting to make it a MMO, and then they went back on it to make it a single player experience, which in the end kept way too much MMO stuff and made it subpar as a single player experience.
That's fair.
Cable's hitting the floor.
I've seen looks very cool, but
Yeah, the combat,
it feels like
the map, the music, and the boss fights is apparently the best thing in the game.
yeah. I do feel like that in a way they sort of tried to do the common problem if they tried to do too much, like there's a lot of minor things in the game that feel like it's cool that they added it, but it's also the type of thing of like they didn't need to add this
What do
into
you
the
mean,
game
good
because
angle?
there's other ways to do it already.
Yeah.
Like apparently
I
there's a
know
way
what
to
that
cook
outfit
food
does.
by reflecting it off the light of your sword. Like
And I've noticed
I
textures.
don't think anyone needed that.
Yeah.
It's cool
It's
that
safe.
it exists, but like it's not needed.
Okay.
And so they could have.
It's just those
Yeah.
what's this? Those just in case moments.
Okay, question, Sin. Are you playing with controller or are you playing with a keyboard?
I only
Because
have the hot buttons.
90% of the complaint I've heard so far about the controls of the game is people using controllers. I'm sure there might be issues even on desktop. It's just
Controller.
you're used. There you go.
Controller's very
There you go.
clunky,
There you go.
Crimson Desert on controller is clunky,
But-
but it's fun in its
Yeah.
own right. I enjoy
Part of
clunky
the issue
controls.
with controller is just the fact that they don't let you rebind stuff, but they're also working on that. So. Hi.
Have you played Arma 3 on controller?
I haven't played Armor in general.
Yeah. There's not enough button on the keyboard for all of the controls on Arma.
Yes, I agree with that. There are way too many buttons, especially if you have
Wait,
it
what?
modded. I agree
Yes.
on that.
They have to make
That's
multi-key
crazy.
keybinds on Arma for some stuff because you don't have enough controls on the keyboard for Arma. So my point is,
Yep.
it's the same thing for Crimson Desert probably because all of the complaint I've heard about controls is people using controllers so far.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like playing
I would
Arma
say
but on
this in
controller.
terms of- So I would say this in Arma, in terms of controls, when you're flying, most average players who regularly plays Arma, they literally have separate control settings for each vehicle they're flying
Yeah.
or driving.
So apparently,
Jesus
according to
Christ.
Vin, the keyboard is not not much better.
Some people who actually
But, yeah.
flies purely on controller, no mouse controls.
Controller not compatible with Crimson Desert? What the fuck? How is a controller not compatible with a game of the same console? I have questions. Now the potential it's working, but it's not really. Damn. But yeah, no, Vin, I will be trying at some point. I need to finish fishing though first. And then I might try off stream to play the game a bit.
Okay. The only one MMO game I I've done on controller was FF14 because the whole setup is intuitive.
Yeah,
But yeah.
FF14 is very good at actually making controller usable. It's
But
very difficult
Shaki,
otherwise
listen,
to
hear
use
me
a
out.
controller in
Yes,
any
what?
type of MMO.
Yeah. Here would be a problem for me at least on controller. Because you have to target
You can
each of
fish in Crimson
individual-
Desert, yes, but can I gain level in the fish
especially
world
if
by
you're doing
fishing
high
in
end raids.
Crimson Desert?
Like the extreme trials, then yeah, cheating would be a problem. But if it's like dungeon runs, it's fine.
Hmm?
Mhm.
I know it's very specific.
Man, I know a
Saki,
few
do you not
people
want
that
to
do
fish?
healing.
I
You
want to
in Crimson
fish
Desert.
in the fishing world because I can gain my level because I need to finish to be level 1000 before I actually take a break, slight break of fishing. God? Yeah, God of Water is the title that you get at level 1000, yes.
1000? Oh no.
Hmm. With your imagination, yeah.
God, my internet is so
Mm.
bad. Everyone is like,
Chucky. I'm having cuteness aggression on with Sheena right now. Why Sheena is so adorable.
Yeah. Hmm. Ah, but yeah. Hmm. I do need to play the game at some point, but
I'm still fishing.
I just like that's why I didn't refund because I feel like they could fix the issue of the generative AI pictures in game without too much issues. And I'm sure that I'm gonna enjoy the rest of the game already. I don't think I don't think it warrants not buying the game if you really wanted to play the game because you enjoyed the gameplay that you saw. But I don't want to like advertise it yet because I want to see if they do actually fix it. Or if they did put the thing on Steam just to say that they're going to replace them, but they're not gonna replace them, you know. Hi Lydia, thank you for joining us. Hope your day at work will go well.
I
Nothing.
need to get more used to doing squash again. Holy fuck. Ugh.
Wait, where are you, Dante? Discord. Where's Dante? Can't find Dante.
Look at this beautiful
There's Dante.
goober. Oh, they're not squatting. I can't pat a squatting fox. That's illegal. It's like when you pat an animal while they're eating, you distract them and then they can no longer eat. That's like an illegal thing to do. Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
Bonjour.
Am I alive?
Yeah, you're alive.
Bonjour.
At least on.
Konnichiwa.
So apparently,
Hello.
my virtual desktop got updated. It did an auto update, so I had a black screen for a bit.
Damn it.
I'm fine now.
Good,
It's fine
at least that it's fine. But yeah. Email shift. I feel bad for you. I hope it will go fast. Well, fast. Mentally fast. It's not gonna go
Volume warning
fast
also
time-wise, obviously.
in Discord. Danger. Seaweed. Siri is cute and small. Just like Sheena.
They're a little
But not
sneaky
just small.
gremlin.
Eats me. Not a cat.
Yeah, that'll be a cat.
Stop. That's it, Sheena. You're not getting cuddles from me anymore. Yeah.
Well, such violence, how could you?
Okay, but violence is a love language. At least if you're Australian.
No.
The fuck do you mean no?
Hmm.
Sheena is asking for cuddles from you, Dante. Shocky used tail whip on Sheena.
Hmm?
You used tail whip on Sheena. You slapped Sheena with your tail.
I mean, that's because they're behind me when I'm squatting. Like it's not like I moved
No, you
much
spun
from my
around.
squattings, but yeah, but still, like you're all staying behind me, so obviously I'm gonna slap people when I'm not looking through my
I mean,
headset.
I'm not complaining though.
Wow.
I mean, what?
Hmm. Hmm.
Wow.
Hmm. Wah. Eh. I'm gonna set up. There you go.
Yeah, not complaining.
Wait, no.
Kaijo, look what you're missing.
Well, they're
Kaijo,
not
you're
missing
missing a lot.
much. They're not missing much. They need to be behind you for that.
What the fuck?
Flip. Damn it. Hmm.
Ah, yeah, being slapped by the tail is great. It's like a little soft punch of fire.
Yeah.
That's adorable. Yeah, let Chalky abuse me with that tail any day. What? It's fluffy.
Oh, it's his outfit.
Hmm. Shake my head.
Don't throw the plate around.
Ah.
Is it point? Like finger guns?
Hmm. Hmm.
If it's something on the plate, yes, I've seen it.
Ah.
Ah, fucking.
Hmm? Ah. Didn't I have a...
I got Freddy scared. I, I don't know now.
There we go. Ah.
Fuck you, Sam.
Hmm.
What do you mean I got knee hand? What the heck?
Hmm. Hmm.
Ah. Oh, there you go. Sheena found it.
Hmm.
Yeah, was it finger gun?
Hmm.
Flying pudding. Open hands. Okay. Good name, finger gun. No, yeah, it's what's this? The interaction with the outfit.
Good job. Don't overdo it. Do stretch after finishing your exercise though too.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, we.
Mhm. Ah.
I just did, Sam. Thank you.
Ah.
Neighbor drilling something.
Ah.
Wall. What? Nothing.
Ah.
Fuck. Pop. Yeah. Stop. No. Please. Ow. That position hates me.
Mhm. Ah.
What the fuck is
I'll
this cube?
hydrate.
I don't get the cube. Look at this
Ah.
cube.
Name the CPU for patient.
Okay.
Name the GPU.
So many cute nerds.
And
over
technically
here.
I'm using one. It's going okay so far. I didn't have any. Well, I had some weird issues, but nothing major that
Stretch.
stops me from playing games or stuff.
It'll glow sometimes. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know.
Oh wow. What the no. No.
Yeah, Nigel needs a little shipping
I'm
bottle.
fine.
Oh, why does it jiggle so much? What the fuck? I don't
Because that's vagrant.
I
It's
don't
vagrant.
like that. I don't I don't like that it jiggles so much. It's concerning.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know you can grab it. What the fuck?
Jesus fucking Christ. It's fine.
Yes,
The other
I have a
ones
cup.
were
I have
wait,
a
no,
mug
that's
here.
whipped cream. Okay, that's whipped cream. Yeah.
Pudding.
Oh. Oh, you could stretch it. That's so fucking cool.
What do you mean horny's back?
Huh?
I don't have horns. Three. So you're saying horny's back? I don't have horns. None of us have horns. Oh
I
wait,
do
Sophie
have
has
horns.
horns.
Technically,
There's no
Kaneko has
fucking
horns. They don't show them.
That is true. I do technically have
Ah.
horns, but they're big and in the way.
Ina poofed.
What do you mean? I'm not horny one. I don't have horns.
How does this?
I don't have horns on my
I-
avatar.
Can't believe
You
Nigel is
don't
horny
need
now.
horns to be
Sheena died.
that.
Died or left? I have no
That
clue.
was the description of having horns.
57 did
You're
have.
horny.
Linux soon via works, but I'm seeing AMD works better. I have no clue if it like I don't have a Linux, so I can't tell you how
I
good
wish
AMD
I came
GPU
up
with
so long
Linux
that-
works.
Horns.
I can just tell you that with Windows 10 it works. It's not that hard because the OS actually fucking works unlike Windows 11.
No.
But I do
We
hope
can poke
it
their
works
eyes
smooth
out.
for you. The
No.
pass to Linux.
Do not dice. Do not poke the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah. My voice is dead.
We're all dead. Our voices are dead. Everything's dead.
Everything dying. Look at this precious goober. It's so fucking adorable. We love the Dante just as much as we love the Shakti. Both of them are cute as hell. Yeah, yeah. Yep, 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 yep.
I want to do the dungeon for Longfall. I want to reach up to 14, but I don't want to at the same time.
My legs. Okay, I might have overdone it a little bit. This is fine. I'm strong. I
When
can
your
power
legs
through it.
don't work like they used to before.
It's fine. I'm gonna cut yours off and use them instead.
What the heck?
Yeah, you don't need them. You're sitting down right now.
What the heck?
Take care, stay
When
cute.
you're too used on full body.
Thank you. You have a good rest of the day. Do relax well. And double
My
C.
snack.
Ah,
Okay. I've got to do like.
cat.
I'm not a cat. Benika's a cat. Well, Benika's has a yeah. There you go, cat. I'm not. Not a cat. What the heck, Siri? Anthony is drawing brick.
Ah.
No, no.
But just left. I think it was because they were having issues with their VR.
I know people will take that
Yeah.
stepping off for Emmywood.
What?
Huh?
What did you say?
What?
You said something about stepping. What did you say?
I know people who I know someone who likes to get stepped on Emmywood.
Yeah, you.
No. No.
And now the last 30.
Can't believe. 5 more to go, Shocky. Let's
Yeah.
go.
30.
Oh, 30. Oh. I just wanted to try to sleep. Way to take a sip of caffeine. Surely I'll be
Like a
ways
two cat, you
to
find someone's
instead
lap
of
and just shit on it.
therapy.
Now you are unable to move. Tap forever
Very good.
as I die from clear. Ugh.
We did it.
Good
Almost
job,
1,000 with
Shakti.
everyone. Now the next 500. How dare you? I want to go fishing. But first I need to go get a shower, so we will switch to the fishing one right away. But if people want to go fish, they can fish.
Fun.
In the meanwhile, I'm gonna go AFK. Or maybe not. Maybe we switch to a comfy world first. So maybe I could put the instance in Go Plus afterwards. Because I preferred being there when the Group Plus instance is open. In case there's issue.
Mhm.
Hopefully there won't be issues, but yes.
In case if funny happens.
Yeah, if random person decide to join and be annoying, for example. So yes, we will be switching
like
first. Hmm? Who?
I am annoying person.
You're not. We're gonna go to one of Harima's world. I
What?
think it should be optimized enough. Hopefully. We'll see. Kaneko, we're moving. No time today. Just relax, Rodith. Dum 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 dum. Yeah, I can place you all here. Don't even need to move more. This is beautiful. And yeah, I'm gonna go take a break, grab a shower and a coffee, and I'll catch you all in like 20-30 minutes, depending how long my shower takes. You all stay wonderful, stay lovely. We'll see you all in a
You're
small
lovely,
bit. You get.
You're also cute.
No, you.
Hi, Juan. Yeah, what emote did you add? Yeah, what emote did you add? Hi, Juan. When Soup Soup's banner's done. I'm. I didn't see what you said, Dante. Sorry, I may have those off a little bit. Think I'm gonna probably end early. It's either I end early or just like I will get out of that sleepy phase. Yeah, it should be. Hi, Kitty. I don't believe that everybody the way I do, I've got you down. Binding. Binding. I have to see it. Don't know how. What I do? Hi, Kaniko. Welcome to the world.
I
Come
dead.
on. We're all dead. Our legs are dead.
Indeed.
Probably. I am probably gonna go clunk out soon. I don't think I'm gonna last long.
5
Today's a long day today. Well. Hmm. Hi nerds. Hi nerds. How you? You're a wonderful being also. I am Loki dying. Like tired dying. Yeah, I'm well. Just tired. Did squats. Even though I wasn't supposed to be doing them, but I chose to do it. So probably tomorrow I'll be skipping tomorrow's stream. Am I dying on stream? Yeah, I'm tired. I probably I'm just gonna raid Shocky. Do an off FK raid on Shocky. Yeah, squat day Mondays. Zombies. Yeah, but I think I'm gonna go do that plan. Probably gonna end early. I could probably raid Shocky right now while Shocky's still AFK. But I kind of want to see who we can raid. Mm-hmm. So, so there's two options I could probably do is end early, do a stream in the morning just to make up the lost time for today's stream, and not do an evening stream, just do a morning stream just to make up lost time again. And then yeah, I'm probably gonna do that because a little bit tired. Well, not a little bit, quite tired here. You know? Wow. What the heck? SMH nerds. SMH. What the heck? But yeah, I'm probably gonna do that because I am dying. So there is yeah, I'll be streaming Crimson Desert throughout the week. So yeah. Either way, I'm pulling the plug here. I'm dozing off here. It's not good. It's not good if I just continue. I'll be sleepy throughout the stream. So again, thank you everyone who came by, to people who have chatted, to people who have lurked. I'll see you guys next time. I'll probably do a morning stream to make up lost time. Again, take care everyone. I'll see you guys next time. Love you all. Mwah. I will hydrate. I rest is, it's just, I'm probably just gonna go rest because my head hurts and all. But either way, I'll see you guys next time. You're all amazing. Love you all. Bye bye. AFK raid. uh, Technically, yeah. I was a little bit too tired, extra tired today. A little bit more dead right now. Probably gonna do a morning stream just to make up the early end.
I reset my play space by accident and I got sent flying. Normal
Sorry.
things, you know. Mm,
Fuck my hand.
cute.
Why did my hand fall asleep? At least it's not my foot that fell asleep. Sorry.
Mm, just wake it up. Easy. Violently shake it until
Trying.
the blood starts to flow in.
I'll try to.
I am gonna poof say hi to some people's
Okay.
sleep because
Have
I think I
fun.
overdid it. My tummy hurt.
Mm-hmm. Your tummy hurt. Baba.
Yes.
Events. Happy birthmas.
Thank
Looks like my time
you.
zone.
It is in fact technically over as it is the 24th now, but yes, thank you. I'm gonna get going. Tell Shaki they're adorable and pretty and a goober. Have a wonderful stream, Dante. Mm.
I am off the back. We are going to be able to switch to the comfy, very beautiful fishing world. And also, I need to do this. I took revenge.
Oh, there.
Right there.
Can't believe.
So, as I said, I'm gonna
It's
try.
been a while that you had an AFK raid hockey.
Yeah,
It had to
true.
be done.
I'm gonna attempt Go
Next
Plus.
time it'll be Dante. I mean, what?
But we will see, like, depending how it goes this time. Ah.
Yeah,
Dante.
I'm not gonna join the fishing world.
Oh.
I'm gonna log off because my head hurts.
Next one.
Squish.
Thank you again for the raid, boob.
Mhm.
Get better soon.
To have fun with the stream.
Cute.
Actually, I'm not gonna fully vlog off. I'm just gonna go say hi to other people.
I need to run on the portal, it was gonna run out. But yeah, do go check out the Nigel, the EP bean. Very lovely, adorable bean. Wah. Okay, if I have the camera in front of me, I can click on the play button. What's on top? What the fuck? I have no clue what I'm going to do yet. I think I'm kind of wanting to still go run around, grab the lucky pools wherever they spawn. But we're gonna see because there's. I don't see any pool yet. Also, in this world, I can put the audio. Do I have tried the right event VRC? No, I have not touched that because I have better things to do, meaning fishing. I did see the right event. I did see, like, it looked like an interesting puzzle thing. I do hope the puzzle stays, but I'm sure the event will end at some point. So yeah, at some point we won't be able to do the thing, and I might miss it, but that's fine. I'm fine with it. Wah. Yeah, we just have a school of sunfish here. I'm gonna guess it's... Oh no, no, not even. I'm guessing it's behind the island. Yeah. Somewhere over there. Like the rat, Vrchat event seems very interesting. For people that want to look at it, it's on the world. You just go to Venture into the Unknown, and you go to one of those things, and you can find a teleport there. I'm pretty sure it's also in Popcorn Palace, which is not listed in there. Because at the entrance of Popcorn Palace, there was the Vrchat thingy. And I don't see any. Oh, that would be interesting. So my guess is we have School of Sunfish here, and we probably have something at Luxian Dunes, or even two things at Luxian Dunes. So for now, I'm probably going to dive somewhere. Yeah, but just try taking their boat. Oh, Celestial. There we go. There's something. I don't see Lug Pool over there, so yeah, I'm just gonna go Celestial. I just want to fish today. I need to set up a camera that's totally not, you know... Can I manage to make a camera that doesn't look sus? Yeah, this should work. Wait, it's not following me. Local. I'm curious why it's lighting on my face. Cuffed. Fix total world in around 7 if you warm up from French vibe, for instance. Yeah, nah. Too much work. Multiple hours of content. For people who are interested in puzzle games, it is an amazing like thing with story behind, and also highly recommended to go check out the thing Into the Unknown. I myself probably won't be touching it unless I manage to get to 1000 on the fishing world first. If it's still there at that point. I don't think it's gonna be, because it's gonna take me a few weeks still to get to 1000 at the speed at which I'm going. I don't want to speed run, so I'm not gonna be fishing till 3 AM every day like I used to do until 500. I could, technically, that would maybe make me more available sooner. Yeah, this camera is not great. Can I... Yeah, this seems fine. Into the Unknown is like... There's so many people that worked on it. Like... When you go into one of the worlds, there's a list of credits for voice actors and stuff, and it's just a massive list. It's nice to see. And it's a multi-world thingy, so... It's kind of Vrchat trying, like, testing the multi-world persistence. Which would be interesting, because it would mean that some world would be able to give you stuff that you would be able to access to other world. Like, for example, the case of... what's it called? Probability Lab giving you an item for Terrors of Nowhere. They could have done that with just that persistence system at that point. But for that, we need to have Terrors of Nowhere actually doing persistence, which they are still not doing. I'm pretty sure they're still stuck with the shitty copy-paste your code in there. Which works technically and lets you fix issues if there's some. But yeah. Yeah, I do have Stronger Strangler on my rod. I got that last week. Or the week before. I don't remember. Now I'm just fishing. Fishing and enjoying the fishing. Beamsh. Hi, pup. How you doing, pup? How's the lovely pup? Where's the camera? Fuck. Wow. Beamsh. Adorable Dante. Pup. How you doing? They were playing Vrchat. Pop was playing Vrchat last time. I can't believe. Imagine that. Pop on Vrchat. Nah, that's not possible. So to be fair, I thought you would be like your. I thought your latest stream would have been Divinity. Did you finish Divinity with Girl? Ah, no. Oh, you didn't finish yet. You just you just all decided to do a Vrchat stream. Is that it? Oh yeah, no, I'm a goof. Technically, Kel is sick. So it totally makes sense that she went in VR instead of streaming Divinity. My twin is a goob. A massive goob. I'm a bonker. Seriously. It was Monkey's birthday, so we dragged him to Slashes. Oh yeah. And decided on the fly to stream. Yeah. Sounds about right. I kind of wanted to pass by, but since it was Slash Go, obviously, I either did not want to wait into a queue just to say happy birthday to Monkey, nor wanted to join and play either. So I would have probably just passed by to say happy birthday to Monkey and left, which I feel like is kind of rude to people that are actually waiting to join. I kind of decided to not do that. I do hope that Monkey had a great time, as you did, as did you all. I found a lucky pull. You still have never mind. Are you, Dante, trying to get the stuff from the event? No? Okay. Well, we don't need to move then. Otherwise, I would have moved us to the lucky pull that's on Tanglewood. But this is better, it gives money. Could have known the bright needn't to only yeah. Ooh. Man. So much better this song as a cozy song, honestly. Vrchat having connecting issues to world. Right now, you mean? I hope it's not touching the save system. Otherwise, what an horror! I will be stuck here fishing for multiple hours again. How will I survive? What will I do? 9 hours of fishing again? No, what horror! I would never. It's fine for now. Yeah, I'm guessing it's some API issues, but if it's just joining world, then it's fine, I guess. I did help. Well, help. I did drive around the sheep yesterday while they were trying to finish their event on this world. I was also very lucky to have to drive around. Well, it was Shib, Krisuna, and Waffles. Was fun. Was fun. Wah. Been a while since I had seen Waffles. Like I have Waffles added. I did see them a few times, but I never end up in the same instance as Waffle. Almost. Same for Sheeb, but it's mostly that the Sheeb is up at weird hours. Minion can join? Wait, oh, they're trying to join here? It's a group plus instance. They should be able to join. So it's, yeah, it's the API. Like there's no reason for them to not be able to join currently. If it's group plus instance. Did I not fuck up and is it group plus instance? That's the question, but I think they are in the group anyway. Pretty sure. It's a group plus instance, yes, they should be able to join. Sheeb is up at weird and odd hours. Well, they're trying to catch the other beans. So yeah, I kinda understand why. Like they're I'm guessing they're spending most of their time with I was going to say Totless and her crew, but more like Krisuna and her crew. Because I see the sheep more often with Krisuna than others from that side. But yeah, no. Since those do wake up at those same odd hours, I'm guessing that's why they're having like such weird sleep schedule. Yeah. I never managed to see Totless outside of DMCA Friday. Now technically that's false. I did see them a few times at some of their other stream when they were not on the dance floor, but you know, in group plus instance or group instance of theirs with just viewers and friends joining, you know. But I never managed to interact much with Totless. Which, yeah, like, that's kind of, you know. Totless too famous for me. Not in the sense that I wouldn't want to talk to her, but more like in the sense that I would be too shy to even approach her. And Sinoid knows it because I think it was Totless that I did join to say happy birthday, and Sinoid had to push me to go say happy birthday to her. But you know, Totless is a very wonderful being. He's one of the people that I look up to when I think about people that I want to. Like, I would love to be kind of like them, but not obviously not like them exactly, because that's not how you stream. You don't copy someone else and do the exact same thing. But more like, you know, how much they give to their community. I wish I had half as much talent as they do. Like, just they do events, they do massive events with their community, they do massive events that everyone knows about, like including the Christmas event and stuff, and they stream, they do event with their community in their server too. It's just way too much things. I don't know how she managed sometimes. I know that technically she's helped by the moderator team from some of those things, including the big events, where it's not just her doing everything, but managing to find a group of people that does actually do that, like that helps you do everything, and managing to do those things is just amazing in my opinion. And that's kind of why I'm saying it's one of the people that I look up to when I think about streams. There's two, well, yeah, there's two other beans technically that I also do look up to, and it's Ko and Fubuki. Those two also are just very wonderful beans. Ah. Oh, Pedias rejoined. Did Marian manage to join yet or not? My instance isn't joinable. Was there an update to the world just now? Maybe. No, there's no update to the world, so it's not a patch issue. Was there an update to Vrchat? That's the second option. Region issues? I did put it at yeah, European. We're on your EU servers, so maybe it's Vind managed to join. Vind is US, and Dante is Asian servers, so you should be able to join normally, since we have people from the entire world currently here. It's kind of weird. Do you have you tried joining other instances? Like, did you just try here or did you try other instance yet? Like, maybe it's just specifically this instance, which would be weird, but I can remake one if that's the case. If you keep on disconnecting, maybe try to delete the cache. That could also help. Maybe. Depending what the issue is. Hi Wolf. Hope you're doing good. Hi Blacklight. Oh, there is maintenance ongoing. Okay, okay. Yeah, there's a maintenance. Blacklight just came into with the clutch for the explanation there. Yeah, that does explain it. But yeah, no, like the one like in the three people that I look up to for streams, I mostly like manage to interact with Ko, and that's the only bin I managed to interact, and I still haven't managed to see them in a bit, and I kind of want to see them again. They're such a wonderful bin. Fubuki, never interacted with them at all. Outside of sometimes when she was next to Ko during a Ko stream. But yeah, that's it. But yeah, no, like it's just so many people that I look at the stream and I'm like, I could make my stream so much better. I'm already thinking of trying for my birthday, depending when it happens. Maybe do a stream from when I wake up to until I go sleep, if I can. Otherwise, it's gonna be another day because depending when it is, maybe my family want to do stuff. Like for the birthday, it's on Thursday. Okay. We could see, but I don't know. Like otherwise, I'll try something another day and try to stream the entire day. Probably going to be a Vrchat stream most of the time, so at least maybe not the entire time, but yeah, playing a few multiplayer games and probably starting the morning in Vrchat. Because that's probably when not everyone that usually join the stream is gonna be there. For 31 March, there is no maintenance today. Wait, what? Weird. I could remake an instance, see if that fixes it, if you want. Don't think that's gonna fix it. We can always try, right? Oh, there's a shadow chasm at spawn. I'm a respawn. Yeah, it's better than the Sandy updraft. Where am I for my liking to fuck off when I look this way? Oh yeah, okay. Ah. Yeah, I did see the Sandy. I saw the shadow, I was like, yeah, well, at least that's the 2 times. We'll see if there's better that spawns. But, yeah. I think the worst one for me currently is the cursed one, because I actually don't bless my fish. I just sell them. So the cursed fish don't, like, I don't see the point for me. It's like, just now. Diamond skin. Manion. Want me to make an instance or not? Oh, probably because the audio is still coming from the camera. There you go, it's fixed. Not coming from the camera anymore. Not that it changed much, honestly. I didn't see much difference. Mostly because Dante doesn't talk much. So the audio did not change much on my end. But at least now it's a bit better. I'm more appropriate to my positioning. Okay. I don't think I would have believed people if they told me that I would still manage to meet some of the people that I used to look up to and enjoy the content of. Often you're meeting people that are amazing, but you just meet them and you don't know about their content, and then you learn about it and you're like, what? That's basically what happened when I met Ryan. At first I didn't know who they were. I had seen them in videos in the past, but it never like never connected the dots at that point for me. It's just, oh yeah, they're a nice bean. And and then oh it's that Ryan. Ryan's such an adorable bean. Yeah, okay. Squish the munchkin. I should be able, by the end of this stream, to be at level 800. And then 50 more levels, and I'll only have 500,000 EXP to get. So the equivalent of the start, up to 500. That's what I'm saying. It's probably going to be a few weeks before I finish again, because it took me a few weeks to get to 500. Maybe a week or two, maybe, but still, like it took me a while to get there. I could try to push faster, but I've been enjoying just morning fishing, cozy, and posting new stuff, and just relax. Just drop here. You do the dailies if you haven't done them, and you just fish. I don't even use usually the boat and run around. I just go on the dock behind and just fish. And I don't unplug my brain, because my brain in the morning is already unplugged. It's perfect. But you know. I completely forgot that Chuck Norris is mentioned in the song. Just like said a comment under that video, it hits way harder now that Chuck Norris descended down from heaven than it did before. R7 for Chuck Norris. May he rest in peace. Dante! I'm a bite. I swear. People shake my head. I'm not AFK. Why are you ending me? Welcome, Raiders. How was the stream? What were you doing? No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much, Dante. And there's a Dante. Hi, Dante. Already ending. Shake my head. Kitty. You're gonna be cozy. Guys, do remember to go check out the Dante. Very adorable bean. Very wonderful. Give them all your mortal possessions. And yeah. You have a good rest of the night. Stay lovely, stay wonderful. I miss the fish. No! But yeah. I'm so lucky to have Nigel and Dante just join on me. They're very wonderful people. doing squat alone was fine, but yeah, being surrounded by friends is always better. And close the shared chat, I guess. Just, yeah. Currently, there's no one else with me. I mean, I'm probably going to at least stream 30 more minutes, but I don't know, like... I thought that Nigel and Dante will be staying longer. But we'll see, we'll see. I'm getting squished. Yeah, it only works on Vinia and doesn't work in Vrchat, sadly. Yeah, Nigel and Dante are amazing beans, that's right. But yeah. We'll see, maybe I go raid someone that I haven't raided in a while if, like, you know, if there's someone that's streaming at an hour that usually I wouldn't be able to catch them. Yeah, but I might suggest officialing settings to lower the tail grass. I mean, you can just move on the stone over there and you don't have the grass. I would help for you, probably. Hmm. Don't know how long Teen Sama's gonna continue streaming today. I could send you all maybe 2 stockings in a bit. We'll see, we'll see. I'll think about it in 30 minutes. If in 30 minutes I feel like I should end. Still gonna be here fishing. I can tell you that, for sure. It's just that I might not actually like do a long stream today. It's always the issue that when you do that kind of stream, the same issue I have, like, potentially would have had with Crimson Desert is I don't know if it would have been a good stream content or if it's the type of game, like some people call them podcast games, where you basically you do something on screen, like fishing, but you need to have topics to talk about. Otherwise, there's, well, it's just kind of, sometimes there's things happening on the stream and sometimes there's literally nothing happening and you're just watching someone fishing for 5 hours and wondering what your life is and why fish, and then you just turn around and fish, and then everyone's happy. I'd watch someone fish for 5 hours. Yeah, I know. Like, I enjoy fishing. I do enjoy. It's just, I think the hardest part is not for me to not have topics to talk about and entertain chat and all. It's just the feeling of not being entertaining because I don't have topic. There's luck pull. On your spot. My spot is not my spot. But yeah, I do see it. Yeah, it's just... I do, like, could talk about random stuff. Like, I could talk about the fact that I'm very hyped to try Stunted Gale because it does seem to be kind of a Skyrim-like type of game, which is kind of what I want right now. Just, you know, an adventure game where, like, RPG adventure games. But yeah, there's not much I can say on it because all I know about it is from the trailer and from a video from Spiffing Breed that I saw. No, the video from Spiffing Breed wasn't the reason why I wanted to get the game. I saw that after wanting to buy the game already. It's just I saw the video, I was like, oh. Yeah. And that's kind of what I want currently, just a good RPG adventure game. Whereas Crimson Desert was more on the just open world part, which is fine too, but it's not the exact same as Skyrim like. I'm gonna look if there's another pool that money-wise would be interesting. I have nothing else to do than just fish at this point. Technically, the lucky pool would be good for EXP. Technically, I was very much wanting to grind faster. I think I'm just gonna fish on the pond, the deck currently. Maybe a bit further from the deck so that it doesn't get stuck inside of the deck. I agree for the fish. B. I watched one long highlight from someone I watched that gave their opinion on the game, and after that I only wanted it more. Eee. Which one? Avalon? Fall of Avalon or Crimson Desert? Crimson? Yeah. Yeah, but this, like, the issues that exist in the game are things that never really truly stopped me in finishing 100% some of the Ubisoft games, which include the stupid quests with, like, you know, oh, go here, grab this, bring it there 12,000 times. The Blacklight is super cute. You should go check them out. They do the streamies and sometimes they fish too. Taz, hi Taz. You should also go check out the scene. Because I want to bully them. And because they stream also. Yeah, no, like I want to play. I do want to play Crimson Desert. It's just after the small backlash about AI stuff, I just like, yeah, no. Probably if I play it, I'm still gonna try to screen share it in the Discord if I play it. I don't know if I'm gonna, like, if I actually stream it afterward, if I'm gonna restart or just continue from where I am. Which I think at this point I would be able to, depending on what, like, how the game is. Don't think people will be missing out much on the story, for example. Hi, Vin. How you doing?
Okay.
Thank you for becoming my engagement bait. I'm joking. I'm joking because you did that joke about me on Jakuba's stream.
Oh, question mark.
It's true that I forgot to switch to a swimsuit. Ooh, nice. You got the catfish. I could switch to a swimsuit. I could. I don't feel like it today. So we're gonna stay in this outfit. I was looking for, like, I saw multiple people using, you know, the cap with the message on it, you know? Like the stupid fishing message. I kinda want to grab that and, like, if I can find it, and grab the thing from web fishing where it's like, if I've gone missing, I've gone fishing. It's kind of accurate to me because I haven't managed to catch much friends these days because fish, and some of them don't fish. So yeah, I'm kind of sorry about that, but um, they'll see me after the fishing break. Boys want me, fish fear me. Yes. There's some amazing one. Side content there is, I don't think that would be matter because there is a lot to do. Yeah, but the issue is the side content is not really all that interesting sometimes. And you get the same thing that you have like kind of a spoiler, maybe. No, not really, more like information about the gameplay in the game. But there is like, for example, quests, not quests, but areas that you can liberate just like in some Ubisoft games. Like it's covered in bandits, you need to do something in the camp, either kill all of the bandits or something, and then you capture the area, and then it becomes friendly area with plenty of guards. Well, if you didn't do, like, if you didn't commit crimes, obviously. If you did commit crimes, it's not technically a safe area either. But at least it's not bandit anymore. Hi, Blacklight. The other adorable Blacklight. Hi, Pop Mom. Pop Mom. Wah. But you know, like I do want to play. And I will play it at some point. For Helldivers, I think we probably won finally the MO. Or is it still tomorrow for the MO? Finishing.
It has a defense on it, so it's
Yeah, yeah,
tomorrow,
yeah.
right?
It's the whole one planet, specific planet, at the end of the thing. But yeah, no, I was thinking of talking about the full timer when it ended. I mean, if we had managed to pay it for the defense, like you know, like to stop attacks from happening on a planet, and drop the DSS on it, we'll be already done. At that point, probably, because they wouldn't have the time to capture the planet. But I'm guessing everyone sent the DSS to the second MO, which is Cyborg.
That one finished.
Ah, it's already finished?
Yeah, that was done either Saturday or early Sunday morning.
Nice. Probably Sunday morning. I'm the EP one. Blacklight is EP. But mom, I wish. What? Blacklight is super nice to cuddle. Just like Pop. It's mostly because both of them are EP beans. Very EP beans. Hi, Cozy. And yeah, I see what you meant by the animation bugging out, like locally. Well, you looking at mine and me looking at yours, the effects just disappear and reappear after, like at some points.
Yeah.
Right. Such a good girl. How you doing, Black Lives? And there will be a EP stream. Nice. Good to know. I'm doing good, Cozy, and you. EP. You EP. They the big EP. EBGB. They need the big EB. EBGB. For tiny bit. I'm probably going to end stream at like in 12-ish minutes. Because I think like I'm kind of running out of topics. And I could fish on stream. But then I need to motivate myself to stay up and standing because otherwise I'm gonna fall asleep and I don't want to fall asleep on stream. While off stream I can fall asleep and it's not too bad, you know, because it's also that I can unplug my brain and stop trying to think about topics. With fishing music? Yeah, always. Hope you're doing good, Odis. Hope the travel went fine. There's the Odis. They come to fish. Yeah, was okay, but we need to leave soon? Oh, no. Can't believe they're leaving us. I want to stay with us. Keep us company. Just leave. Right as they join. Well. No, understandable though. There's also technically another reason why I want to end a bit early, outside of the other obvious reason that like kind of piled up next to each other. But it's yesterday I was already like thinking if I wanted to do a full fishing stream and not do the squats because I was still slightly sick yesterday. And while I'm not as sick as I was last week, I'm still a bit tired. Some of that. So we're probably going to do a short stream today. I will do normal hour stream the next days, but yeah, today is a bit shorter. I do need to set up my OBS to be ready to stream Tainted Grail. As well as I need to check the dare drop to see when the dare drop for Roadcraft DLC come out and what are the dare drops in there. Because I will be doing a dare drop at least to maybe, I don't know if we're gonna manage to get a key again or if it's not gonna be in the thing that we can get. But yeah, I will be doing a dare drop at least so that I don't feel like I'm doing it for free, you know? Like, it is for free technically, but at least give back to the dare drop thingy. Hi, Rodis. We caught Rodis.
I like the pool is just taunting us. It's just moving closer. It just came up.
It's soon it's gonna move here. We're gonna move somewhere else. It's gonna be in the middle of the spawn island. Huh. You thought you'd get me somewhere else? No. Hmm. But yeah, no, like... ah. I do need to do a few things for this week. I was supposed to do, and I didn't manage, make a video for this month. I think I'm not gonna be doing that this month. I might see next month about doing it, but yeah, this month probably not. Like, Hmm. It will travel on to learn soon, yes. That's the idea. It's gonna come across the island and just float. Go under the floor. And yes, you can fish technically under the floor. Is it practical? Probably not. Outside of if you have, like, if you're on a boat under the island, like for example on the volcano biome, you can technically glitch yourself inside of the mountain. And then you can fish on the sole area of the map where there is no water, but there is water. Because inside of the mountain there's a cave with an elevator that goes down, and they made a partial shaft that goes down. But they also removed the water texture around because they didn't want for people to see water down the elevator, obviously. But so when you're under the mountain over there, you can see like it's missing water texture around that hole. So yes, you can technically fish in the sole place where there is no water. And I'm wondering if you could fish under the elevator also, technically. I need to test that at some point. Just go over there and just fish in the elevator. Wah. Time to go to 100 million so that in case they do drop an aircraft carrier as a boat that you can buy for 100 million, I can buy it instantly. That's gonna be the case. I don't think they're gonna be that stupid. I kinda wish we could have a bigger boat yet. There was still no, like... No one confirmed that yet or said stuff about it. So we don't know. Everyone's hoping for at least a, like, pirate ship level of boat. Well, a small pirate ship. Ah yes, a man-o-war level of pirate ship. Right, Vin, a man-o-war. Small boat, yeah. That's just the size of this island behind us. Like, I wouldn't mind, honestly, bigger boats. But the issue for the bigger boats is they need to make them relatively hard to obtain, because otherwise people are just gonna come in, grind just for that, and then annoy everyone else with their boat. Yeah, an actual yacht, not a small yacht, but an actual yacht would be nice too. But it would also need to be super pricey. Or they could go all out and just be like, yeah, 20 bucks and you can buy a massive yacht and annoy everyone else in the instance. And the good thing is, technically, if you get someone that joins and is annoying with their boat, you can do an easy thing if you're on group instance and you're the owner or one of the moderators. You can kick this person. And the boat disappears. So yes, it wouldn't be that much of an issue, I think. It would be an issue for the public instances. Like, there was the joke of the aircraft carriers. Imagine 3 aircraft carriers just triangulating around the spawn island, and all you see from the spawn island is grey walls clipping into each other. that big boat, annoying stuff sound like CRTs again. Yeah, kind of, yeah. I think the biggest issue is mostly that people, if they are not sitting on the seats in boats, they get dragged by other boats that are passing by. And for a bigger boat that would pass by, that would probably be even more the case. Even more since currently what we have, like, what we have for now is boat like this, where the most you have is just the side that has colliders and slight bit of the front. Now imagine that, but with let's say five level boat, and so the front is an entire wall. You're not even going to push, like grab people with your boat, you're just gonna push them around on the side of the boat. Which is not gonna be much better because they're just gonna fall in the water. And also the fact that, let's say you have a yacht that's like 4 times the width of this, just parking above your boat after pushing you all out of the boat. You're gonna have to go inside of the boat just to get access to your boat to then move it out. And yeah, there's plenty of issues like that that I kind of understand why it wasn't a thing at the start. I hope they do add some still. Like, they don't need to be overly like. While I would love to have them have multiple floors, I would understand if they do just simple, like, you know, outside. Just the outside of the boats. Because they need to, sadly, also be careful of the size of the world, because sadly, they decided, well, sadly, understandably so, but sadly, they decided to do Android compatibility, which is very nice for people that have the, like, playing on Android, Android, how's it called? Yeah, on the Android side of Vrchat. Anyway. For those people it's nice because they can actually play the game too, so yeah. It's just that it's sad in the sense that it will limit them on some stuff by default. They could. I don't know how much you can do difference between the, like, well, they could simplify technically some of the bigger boats to make them less heavy for smaller, for the Android version, and then make them okay sized for the for the. I'm gonna need to move my camera again, I think. No, that's fine. Okay, it's perfect. Yes, Nick Nike, you can join. But yeah, no, like, I do see the issue that would come up with making bigger boats. And while they do, like, they did a good job of making them low poly. Like, seriously, it's like very low poly, those boats, which is amazing. And they could probably do the same with bigger boats. The issue is the bigger the boat, the bigger the poly is, even if you try to make it not too poly. I think the advantage of the aircraft carrier is that it's mostly flat on the sides. So you would be technically able to make something very low poly. The only issue would be the texture size to make the floor not look too horrible either. Either that or you do low poly white lines on the boat. to make the white lines instead of having texture for it. Don't know what would be lighter out of the two things. Hi, Nick Nack. How you doing? Ah, wonderful bean. What is being attacked by Oof. What is... You are being attacked by the knick-knack. Wonder if they're AFK, maybe. Seems to be. Mobile. Yeah, mobile. Android version, yeah, mobile version, but yeah. And that does give you the issue that you're stuck at like 100 megabytes at most. And apparently, stupidly, 100 megabytes, be it on desktop, like on PC VR or not. Meaning this one currently is at 120 megabytes in PC VR. So no, technically you can go above, it's just that I'm guessing for the quest it's... I'm wondering if they changed the limit. Vrchat, megabyte limit, world, Android version. That's the avatar size limit, which is 10 megabytes, which I find very hard to get. 100 megabytes is, they say. Cannot upload or access word, that's it, 9 million size after build time, question for Vrchat, no, they... Okay, so yeah, apparently according to the... Android content optimization from the creator.vrchat.com. It is 100 megabytes, so I'm guessing there's possibility to have two different things. It's just that then it's not really cross-platform anymore, because you get people that have the like the mobile version. I'm thinking about one thing though. With what Vrchat just did, like, you know, the thingy Unto the Unknown, Venture into the Unknown. Couldn't the creator of this world be like, oh yeah, we're just gonna remake the Android version, separate from the PC VR version, but give it the same save system, and grab the save from that world and give it to that other world too? And it saves on the same save system? Like, in that case, if you're in Android and you want to join on PC friends, you can. Well, you can't technically because they would make it PC VR only. But yeah, if you have friends that are Android only, you could join on the instance on Android only thing. Yeah, no, I do see some issues to this idea. Now that I think about it. It's not an issue of segregation in that case. It was more like trying to fix the fact that they're gonna be limited about what they can do about the game with a limit of amount of megabytes. Because how many island can you add with that much megabytes? With only 100 megabytes. Take care of this. Like, I don't want to put the Android people in a corner, obviously. That's not my goal. My goal is just to think, like, was just to think about an idea of how they could make it so that they could technically push this world even further in the future. Because with the limitation of 100 megabytes, you get limited very fast about what you can do or not. Then innovate new technique in art form. Push the medium further than it was designed for. Yeah, true. That is true. But they also segregated usually between platform. That's why there's the how's it called? Cross platform. That's not always a thing on games. Because managing to make the exact same game between two platforms and make it work between the two platforms is relatively a hard thing to do, but yes. You know, it's true that it's gonna make them innovate, but yeah. I just hope that it won't get them stuck somewhere instead of managing to innovate. Because imagine they managed to add the pyramids. So the last area from the index that's missing currently. And then they notice that they can't add anything else because if they add another island or another road or another boat, suddenly they're going to have issues. And it's gonna pass over the limit and Android people can't join anymore. Like they can't re-upload the Android version. They need to remove stuff to be able to do things. Like yes, at first they're probably going to be able to just be like, oh yeah, we can reuse that texture on this thing and it makes it work, and like that we can delete some stuff and bam, everything's working properly again and we manage to fit it. But how much time before you can't at some point? Like, I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with this one. I'm just hoping they won't be limited as much as it feels like they would be because of doing the two things. Okay, I'm not saying we need to have a NASA PC to just play this game, obviously. That's not what I'm trying to argument around. I'm just hoping that they can make their whole vision for the game be a thing. Because so far we have almost no quest. Like we had the keys, we had the alien, we had the chainsaw, the saw, and we had the alligator and volcano quests. That's 4 quests. We had a 5th one that's been removed from the game currently because they probably didn't have it finished yet. And that's it. We have a bunch of NPC that does nothing outside of existing. We have a missing area, which I'm gonna assume is gonna be as big as the volcano one, so probably not that big. With a few fish, probably around the same amount as the volcano area. So not a massive, not a massive amount of data probably. And it's to the point where I'm wondering if they are ever going to put big boats in the game. Because big boats would be... like, might work. Maybe they might put, like, you know, a sailboat, something like that. Bigger boat. They could technically just reuse the asset at Crescent Isle and make that a boat. That would also work. But yeah. The issue there is like it's not a question of they're limited because like they're not well they're limited because they need to optimize the game and all, they need to make the game work and have everyone be able to download it on a small amount. Is that they're limited to 100 megabytes, which how much is web phishing? Hmm. Ah. Web phishing is 195 megabytes. So they already did amazing. I will give it that. Because web phishing is twice the size of this. That they do have other things on web phishing. They do have other like they have quests and stuff. They have the luck thingy. They have treasure hunts. And they have some other things, but it still doesn't change the fact that technically they didn't manage to make the equivalent of that in VR for less megabytes. But yeah, it's. I do hope they manage to do everything they want to. I want them to succeed. This game, like this game world, could be amazing at some point. With a bunch of additional things finished. Well, just first of all, the developer's vision of the game world be finished. That's the most important part. Thank you for the 105, Harley. I hope you're doing good. And hi, Renard. I'm doing good. Yo. Wow. I mean, now that I think about it, there would be a way technically to do the idea that I had about using multiple worlds without segregating between Android and PC. And it's a very simple way. You make it that some other areas are available on another world. And so when you want to go to those areas to fish for those fish, that would still up the number of fish on all of those worlds, like the total number of fish on all of those worlds and indexes and stuff. So you'd still have an issue of there would still be an increase in data in all of the worlds. Like you could technically just separate between regions.
I don't know if this door works between multiple worlds like that, or...
It shouldn't, but according to what I understand from the new thing Into the Unknown that they are doing, like Venture Into the Unknown, apparently it's cross world the persistence. So potentially.
Well, it's just the persistence, but I mean the actual, like, you buying your boat instant thing or instant selling.
That seeing as it didn't go away when they re-uploaded the world, I'm guessing they can decide, yeah, that bonus that's available on that world will be available also on those worlds. But yeah, that would be a solution to have more content in the future. An entire just other world which grabs your data and reuse it, and you can save over and come back here at some point and have stuff from that area, like for example a rod from that new area, and just fish here. Could be an idea. You wouldn't segregate between mobile and PC at least. And you wouldn't be limited by just 100 megabytes. Well, you'd still be limited by 100 megabytes, but you would be able to do more. Way more. Would be funny to see 2 fish world at the top of the popular page. Yeah, what are people doing? Are they fishing? Are they fishing? But I don't know. We'll see. It's just they're still working on it, obviously, and they still need to fix stuff first before finishing to. Well, they're probably working also on quest and stuff at the same time, I'm guessing. But yeah. And we still don't have also the replacement for Flying Avatar that they did say they were working on. Wah. One of those games I will probably come back to relatively often. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be every Friday, obviously. But we'll still come back to it sometimes on Fridays when after I'm level 1000. But after I'm level 1000, I'm obviously probably the next Friday. After that, I'm probably going to just be like, we're just gonna be cozy this week. Because I know that plenty of people want to just be cozy. Or maybe I'll just make a poll to see what most people want to do. If they want to be cozy or if they want to go fish. Because if most people want to go fish, we can go fish. It's fine. It's just that I won't be pushing for the fish world then. I'll be glad to go to the fish world still. Like, don't get me wrong. It's just that I know that not everyone enjoys this world. Not everyone enjoy having their friend disappear for months because they're fishing. But you know, it's very important to let your friend go and fish. Give a man a fish and he'll live for a day. Teach a man how to fish and he'll be gone forever. I mean what? Squish the sea. Also, yes, I know my stream is longer than I thought I would. Because I started talking about hope and concern about the future of this game.
I just hope they had more content.
Yeah, like I said, I
'Cause
want.
I have no desire to get to 1000 because titles are meaningless things to me.
You know, that's
I'll grind for
understandable.
like power and newness stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, no, like, I want them to add more content. They did say that there was more content at some point, but when is the question? And how much is the other question? We know there's at least one more rod. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they had something for level 1000 outside of the title. But it's not in there yet because that probably would just be like, oh yeah, congratulations, now you don't need to play the game anymore because you actually have a rod that's completely broken or something like that. Or maybe it's just a boat for level 1000 which would be nice, honestly, and wouldn't be too broken. Or even better, it's just a customization for all boats. Not even something that helps you in any way, it's just decoration. There's also the quest that, like I said, a quest that was in the beta where you could find a skull behind the stone underwater next to Tanglewood. And my idea was to go check the ghost when that quest is finished, but we don't know when it's gonna be brought back. So every big update or every update, you're just gonna have to go look for... and they're probably going to know that there's new quest at least added, I hope. But otherwise we'd have to just go and look for the skull every big update to see if it's there again or not. Because we know it exists. We know that it's been turned off. It's annoying. Thank you for the hydrate, Kyo. And the stretch. Yeah, I should probably do that. I didn't know I set up my camera as fixed worldwide. Which is perfect, technically. In life you will remember. I'll live a life you will remember. This child. What the? That's these freaking celestial just in front of us. That's a 3 times modifier, so it's nice, but yeah. I'm not even going to move over there. That's tempting, but I'm probably going to end stream in 5 minutes. The only thing that's kind of making me believe that we might actually get way more content in here. And I'm not sure if I'm correct on that. Let me check. Might not be the case. Might be the opposite side of the spectrum. Where the fuck are you? Okay, no, Tales of Noah is PC only, so yeah, no, that doesn't work. Yeah, no, I was about to say Tales of Noah was a ton of content, but yeah, no, Tales of Noah is a fully PC game. Just like Slash Go. So yes, it's technically one of the first highly popular multi-platform games that we have. Like, I know people are going to tell me, yeah, no, there's this game and there's this game that are highly popular. Well, it's not 10,000 player highly popular for multiple weeks. Is what I'm meaning. Like, yeah, sure, there's plenty of people probably, if you look into the popular tab, that are playing games that are popular and that are multi-platform. Let's see. I am... Wait, what? I am surprised to say that I don't see the Black Cat on the list of popular world anymore. That is surprising. Oh no, there. It's way, way lower. There's only 531 people in Black Cat. I think my thing is not properly set, like, order-wise, because it's not number of people. I'm guessing it's... I don't know how they do their thing. Like, Black Cat should be a bit higher. Popcorn Palace, obviously, is also one
Just
of
use
the higher.
active. Active is
Active is the
By
one, yeah. Ah,
number.
there you go, yeah.
populated
Currently-
by some like metric.
Yeah, currently
Upvotes.
Fish is on a low number, 1,300 current players, but sometimes it picks higher numbers depending of the hours. Black Cat 700. I'm guessing it's a Chinese or Japanese world with you know, the luck probably. Murder 522 is also multi-platform. So yes, technically there's Murder that is a multi-platform with relatively good number. Same for Among Us. Chaos of Nowhere is the next big game. No, there's Prison Escape before that, which was also multi-platform. But yeah, Murder, Among Us, Prison Escape, I'm sorry, all of those are PvP games. Chaos of Nowhere is the first PvE game, technically, which is only PC VR.
It's not PvE all the time.
Well, yeah, there's a few times where it becomes PvP, but most of the game is PvE, is what I mean. While Murder, Prison Escape, and Among Us, there's always PvP in it. You can't do without it. After that, I don't even see... Oh no, I see Slash Go, which is also PC only. 116 player currently. But I'm pretty sure the reason why they have low number is because the world has low numbers by itself. And people are tired of getting stuck into a queue to join their friend. So they go play something else. Hi, fish. See, fish, I'm fishing. I'm fishing. Fish. I want to fish too, but I tired. But fish. 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 Can't believe Fish Cakes dragged Chromia yesterday. They dragged them through the Vrchat thingy. Instead of instead of going fishing. That is... Shake my head. Should I join? I was fishing. And then I was fishing some more. Like, I passed from being fishing to... from desktop to hopping on in VR. Then I saw that Jakku started streaming. And I just poked in their chat and they were like, yeah, Shoki, you're joining for fish. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, sure. I got dragged to more fishing after my fishing. And then when Chromia finally decided to be fishing, well, I was already stuck with an adorable shib. So I didn't want to just leave. Eek. But yes, I'm gonna do the end of stream. So for everyone that joined today, thank you all so much. I will catch you all tomorrow for Roadcraft. We will see how we do the Roadcraft thingy with Blue, if it's there dropped or not. But yeah. Do remember to check out all the socials, and I will see you soon. You all stay lovely. You all stay adorable. And we are going to raid someone, obviously, as I always do. And let me check who's streaming. One of the bin I wanted to raid, I think, ended the stream already, sadly. Ah, no, they're there. We're gonna raid on a very lovely bean playing a very lovely game. You all have a wonderful rest of the day, night, or time zone. And thank you all for the yes. My brain is tired. Thank you all so much for the company. I almost said it right, but for some reason my brain dropped in the middle there. You all go send lots of love to the lovely stocking for me. Bye bye, everyone.